The night he called me, I was standing at my kitchen sink, watching the last bit of daylight disappear behind the maple tree. And I swear, the sound of his voice made my whole body go cold. I know people love to talk about intuition, like it's some magical power you can switch on and off. But for me, intuition is just the way my heart whispers before my mind can catch up. And that night, with the phone pressed against my ear and the faint hum of my refrigerator filling the silence behind me, my heart whispered one thing. This is wrong. So wrong. But before I tell you what he said, and why it almost destroyed the closest friendship I ever had, I need to take you back. Back to when life was simple. Back when I believed loyalty ran deeper than desire. And back when I thought I understood the people I loved. My name is Lorraine Carter, though most people just call me Rain. I'm 41. A community center counselor by day, and a keeper of too many secrets by night. I live in a quiet little neighborhood in North Carolina, the kind where folks still wave when they drive by, even if they don't remember your name. My house sits on a corner lot, white siding, black shutters, porch light always on. My peace, my refuge. And right next door, for almost 2 decades, lived my best friend, Janelle. If I had to describe Janelle in one word, I'd choose sunlight. She was warm, bright, and just a little blinding. Her laugh could shake the dust off your bad moods. Her presence filled a room before she even stepped inside. And even though we were the same age, she always had this youthful sparkle about her, the kind that made people lean in when she spoke. We met back in college, 2 Black girls in a majority white campus, both looking for a familiar face and ending up finding each other. She majored in marketing. I majored in psychology. I used to tease her that she could sell hot cocoa and a heat wave. She'd say I could talk a storm cloud into backing up and apologizing. For almost 20 years, our lives moved like twin rivers, side by side, close but never merging. I was the one who stayed single longer, taking my time, focusing on work, and she was the romantic, always dreaming of the perfect man, the perfect house, the perfect life. And then she met Marcus. Even now, saying his name feels like swallowing ice. I remember the first time she brought him over. Tall, smooth voice, beard shaped so sharp it could probably slice paper. A little older than us, mid-40s. He had this gentleness in the way he looked at her. Or maybe I just wanted to believe it. He held her hand like she was made of glass, treated her like she was the only woman in the room. But the thing that always struck me was how often his eyes drifted toward me. Not in an obvious way, not in a trying to test something way, more like curiosity. The kind a man gets when he sees something he recognizes but wasn't expecting to see again. I brushed it off. Women, especially Black women, we learn early that sometimes men look at you without meaning to. We learn to let it slide so peace doesn't slip out the room. Janelle, though, Lord, she was in love, head over heels, floating on air love. And when she asked me to help plan her wedding, I didn't hesitate. How could I? She was my sister in everything but blood, my shadow, my laughter, my heart's keeper. The months leading up to her wedding were a blur of color swatches, bakery samples, dress fittings, and late-night calls. Sometimes she'd cry from excitement. Sometimes she'd worry she wasn't enough. And I'd always tell her, "Girl, you are more than enough. He is blessed to have you." And I meant it. I truly did. The wedding day was beautiful. Warm September sunlight, music floating through the air, soft pink roses everywhere. She looked like she was walking inside her own dream. I stood beside her as maid of honor, holding her bouquet, steadying her hands when she trembled before walking down the aisle. And Marcus, standing at the altar, watched her with eyes full of adoration. At least that's what I chose to see. Life went back to normal after that, or as normal as it could with the newlywed couple next door. They were happy, the kind of happy that makes neighbors smile and whisper blessings under their breath. I saw them grilling in the backyard on weekends, laughing as they burned chicken wings. I saw Janelle watering her hydrangeas while Marcus came up behind her to kiss the side of her neck. Everything looked perfect. And then came that night. 3 months after the wedding. A regular Tuesday. I was washing dishes, still wearing my work badge, hair tied up in a frizzy bun, jazz music playing softly in the background. My phone buzzed. Marcus. I frowned. He'd never called me directly before, not once. If they needed something, it was always Janelle reaching out. Always. I wiped my hand on a towel and answered. "Hello?" There was a long pause, a long shaky pause before he spoke. "Rain, it's me." The sound of his voice made my skin tighten. Something about the way he said my name, soft, familiar, like he had practiced it, set off alarms inside me. "Is everything okay?" I asked. Another pause, a deeper breath, and then he said the sentence that knocked the air out of my chest. "I shouldn't be saying this. I know I shouldn't, but I'm still in love with you." For a moment, everything around me faded. The ticking clock, the running faucet, the soft hum of Coltrane in the background. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. He kept talking, words tumbling out in a rush. I tried to move on. I thought I could. I thought marrying Janelle would help me forget, but I didn't let him finish. "Marcus, stop. Stop right now." But he didn't. He whispered, "I made the wrong choice, Rain. I should have chosen you." The sink water overflowed onto my hands. My knees felt weak. And all I could think was, Lord, why does betrayal always come dressed as honesty? I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, trembling, not because I wanted him, but because I knew what this meant. I knew in that moment that nothing would ever be the same again. Not my friendship, not my peace, not the way I looked at myself in the mirror, and certainly not the way I'd look at Janelle, sweet, trusting Janelle, ever again. When I finally found my voice, it came out low, shaking. "Marcus, you crossed the line you can never step back over." And then I hung up. I stood there for a long time afterward, staring at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. My face looked tired, older, like I had just watched something precious slip through my fingers. I didn't know what to do, but I knew this. The path ahead would not be easy. Not with secrets like this. Not with friendships so fragile. Not with the heart that still believed in doing the right thing. Even when doing the right thing could cost you everything. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, as I always do. The soft gray light spilling through my bedroom blinds made everything feel quiet, almost sacred. I lay in bed for a moment, listening to the familiar hum of the air conditioner and the occasional car driving past. My phone sat on the nightstand, screen dark, silent. But I knew Marcus had called again during the night. I hadn't answered. I wasn't ready. And somehow I wasn't sure I ever would be. Work distracted me, as it always does. Sitting in my small office at the community center, watching teens shuffle in and out for counseling sessions, I tried to lose myself in other people's lives, their worries, their victories. It's funny. Being surrounded by so many struggles makes your own seem smaller. Until you're alone, driving home with a sunburned heart and a mind full of questions. And yet, the memory of Marcus's voice lingered. That soft, intimate tone, the way he said my name, it wasn't meant for anyone else. And now it had its own echo in my chest that I couldn't shake. I tried to tell myself it was impossible. He was married. Janelle was my best friend. That was a line I drew over and over in the quiet moments, in the car, in the kitchen while making toast. I repeated it like a prayer. This can't happen. It mustn't happen. But life has a cruel way of testing the boundaries we set for ourselves. A few days later, I noticed small changes in Marcus's behavior. Innocuous things, almost invisible at first. He'd stop by Janelle's garden a little longer than necessary when I was nearby, laughing too loudly at something she said. He'd glance in my direction when he thought I wasn't looking. And the worst, the very worst, was the way he started sending me texts. At first, they were innocent. Hey, Rain, just wanted to check on you. How's your day? Small, harmless words. But then they started lingering longer, hinting at familiarity that made my stomach twist. He'd write about something mundane at work. Wish you were here instead of me staring at these documents. Remember that coffee we used to get at the corner shop? It was all subtle and yet deliberate. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to feel it. And part of me wanted to tell Janelle immediately, but another, smaller, darker part of me feared the fallout. I feared losing her forever. And I feared exposing myself, my own emotions, my own vulnerability. It came to a head one afternoon, a week after his first call. I was walking home from the center carrying a bag of groceries when I spotted him on the sidewalk across the street. Marcus, walking towards me. My stomach sunk. He smiled, just a little, a smile meant to charm, meant to erase boundaries. Rain, I was hoping to catch you for a second. I stopped dead, gripping my bag like it could anchor me to reality.
Marcus, I don't think we should, I started, but he held up a hand. I know, he said softly, almost painfully. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't help it. I think about you every day. The honesty, or the illusion of it, made me step back. My eyes, I realized, were brimming with tears. Not because I wanted him, but because of the weight of his words. I could feel the history between us pressing in, the unspoken moments from college, the late night study sessions, the laughter, the unrecognized crushes. I can't, I said finally, voice barely a whisper. You're married. You're with Janelle, and she trusts me. I will not, I cannot betray her. He sighed, the sound of a man carrying his own guilt. I know. I just needed you to hear me say it. I couldn't hold it in anymore. That was the first real crack in our world. The first undeniable clue that something I never thought would happen, something I had no name for yet, was slowly unraveling. After that day, I tried to put distance between us. I didn't respond to his texts unless I had to. I avoided Janelle's house when I could. I told myself I was doing the right thing, protecting my friend, protecting myself. But the small, everyday moments made it impossible to ignore. I'd see him at the grocery store, at the corner cafe, even walking the same route I took every morning. Each time I'd feel that same tremor in my chest, that same pull that said, this could be easy, this could be dangerous, this could destroy everything. One evening, I was sitting on my porch, sipping tea, trying to unwind after a long day. The air smelled of rain, wet asphalt, fresh leaves, the quiet smell of early fall. My phone buzzed. I knew before I even looked at the screen who it was. It was Marcus. And this time, his message wasn't casual. Rain, I can't stop thinking about us. I'm not happy. I made a mistake. Please, meet me. I almost dropped the phone. My hand shook. My tea sloshed over the rim of the cup. And somewhere deep in me, part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted to disappear and leave everything behind. Instead, I put the phone down, slowly, carefully, and I breathed. This ends now, or it never ends. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't end, not until the truth came out. The tension lingered for weeks. Every casual encounter, every smile from him, every accidental brush of hands felt loaded with meaning. I started noticing things I never had before. Little comments from Janelle about how Marcus sometimes remembers old friends and laughs about college stories. Little hints that
I had been part of a shared memory he hadn't shared with anyone else. And then came the first undeniable clue that I could no longer ignore. A text that wasn't meant for me, but I saw it on his phone when he left it on the counter during the friendly chat at Janelle's. A message from him to a contact labeled Rain. It said, "I can't stop thinking about last night. I know it's wrong, but I can't help it." My stomach twisted. My hand shook. My heart felt like it had been set on fire and left to smolder. I knew then this wasn't casual admiration or passing fancy. This was desire, and it was real, and it was dangerous. And just like that, the world I thought was simple, my friendship with Janelle, the trust between us, the quiet comfort of everyday life began to tilt. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to stop it. And I certainly didn't know how to protect the person I loved most. But one thing I knew for sure, ignoring it would only make it worse. It all came to a head one humid Thursday evening. I was at Janelle's house, helping her organize some wedding thank you cards for a late post-wedding brunch. They were hosting. The house smelled faintly of lavender and vanilla. Candles Janelle always insisted on burning to keep the vibe cozy. The faint sound of jazz filtered from the living room system. Marcus was in the kitchen, fiddling with a tray of appetizers. I was perched on the edge of the sofa, sorting envelopes, trying to pretend that the tension between us hadn't been steadily growing over the past few weeks. I knew Marcus had been texting again. I tried to ignore it, tried to stay professional, tried to focus only on Janelle. But that night, the pull was palpable. He came over, standing behind the sofa, the scent of his cologne, sandalwood, and something faintly citrus wrapped around me, familiar and dangerous. He leaned down slightly, voice low. "Rain, can we talk? Just for a minute." I froze, gripping an envelope so tightly I thought it might tear. I said softly, more firmly than I intended, "Not here. I can't." But he persisted. His eyes, the same ones that had once seemed warm and safe, now held a tension that made my stomach knot. "Please, it's important." Before I could protest further, Janelle called from the kitchen. "Marcus, could you taste this dip?" He glanced toward her, the momentary distraction giving me a heartbeat of clarity. I swallowed hard, released the envelope, and told him firmly, "No, Marcus, whatever this is between us, it ends here. I won't let it go further." He hesitated, like he wanted to argue, wanted to reach out. But then he straightened, voice tight. I understand." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to hope that this was just the last flicker of temptation, that once he was reminded of Janelle's presence, he'd step back. But deep down, I already knew it wasn't over. That night, I went home feeling hollow. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the dim glow of my bedside lamp, replaying every conversation, every glance, every little moment where he had been too familiar. I realized I had been ignoring the truth all along. He wasn't just nostalgic. He wasn't just confused. He was emotionally invested in me. And the next morning, it happened. The moment I knew would shatter everything. I had gone to the corner cafe for my usual morning latte, earbuds in, lost in the soft crackle of vinyl jazz playing through my headphones. I spotted Marcus at a table near the window, sipping his coffee and scrolling through his phone. Normally, I would have kept my distance, but that day something compelled me to glance his way, and I saw it. He had his phone open, a message drafted, and at the top, in bold letters, was my name. My heart dropped. I didn't see the whole text, but what I glimpsed made my stomach churn. It said, "I can't stop thinking about her. I know I made a mistake. I'm sorry." I swallowed hard. My hands trembled. My latte nearly spilled. I walked outside, trying to gather my thoughts, when he followed me. "Rain, please," he started urgently. "I need to explain, just a minute." I shook my head, tears threatening to fall. "Marcus, enough. You are married. You are not supposed to be this. I am not this. I cannot be your secret." But he persisted. His words were sharp, desperate, pleading. "I can't lie anymore. I can't pretend. I love you. I've loved you for years, and I thought I could move on, but I can't. Not with her. Not with anyone else." It was like a physical blow. My mind reeled. All the times he had leaned in too close, smiled a little too knowingly, said things that made my pulse quicken. It wasn't my imagination. It was real.
And then the betrayal hit the deepest. I realized I had been helping my best friend, the woman I loved like a sister, plan her wedding, while her husband's heart wasn't with her. He had been holding a secret, one that wasn't small, one that threatened to destroy everything. I backed away, voice trembling. "Marcus, this is unforgivable. I can't. I won't. Leave. Now." He reached out as if to touch my arm, and I pulled back, almost stumbling. "Do not touch me. Not ever again in that way." The words hung in the humid morning air. The cafe traffic moved around us like it was normal, but my world had been irrevocably shaken. I walked home slowly, every step heavy with the realization that my life had changed, that my trust had been tested, that the person I had considered a friend, someone I had laughed with, cried with, shared secrets with, had crossed a line I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. By the time I reached my front door, I made a silent vow. I would not betray Janelle. I would not allow this secret to fester. I would not give Marcus an inch of permission to unravel my morals. But what I hadn't realized was this: keeping that vow would come at a cost. Because the deeper truth, the part that would break me, twist me, and test the very foundations of loyalty, was still waiting. The moment I knew for sure betrayal wasn't just an idea, it was real, came the following weekend. Janelle had invited me to a brunch with a few close friends. I was helping set up the table when I noticed Marcus fiddling with his phone again, distracted. Normally, I would have ignored it. Normally, I would have trusted him to keep things simple. But my gut, that old sharp whisper, screamed at me to look. And I did. The screen lit up as he lifted it, and I caught a fragment of a message. I wish she knew how I felt. I wish I had chosen her. I froze. My chest tightened. My hands went cold. Everything in me screamed, this cannot be real. It cannot be happening. But it was. And in that moment, the fragile thread of trust between my best friend and me began to fray. The days after that brunch were a haze. I moved through them like a ghost.
nodding at neighbors, smiling at Janelle, pretending that everything was fine while the weight in my chest grew heavier with every heartbeat. Every time I saw Marcus, every time I caught that guilty little glance or remembered his words, I felt my stomach twist. I knew I had to do something. Doing nothing wasn't an option, and yet I wanted to act carefully because the last thing I wanted was to hurt Janelle or give the satisfaction of seeing me break. I started documenting everything. Small things at first. Times, dates, the content of messages, brief notes about his behavior. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I needed a record, a shield for when the confrontation came. I also began setting firm boundaries. I stopped responding to any text or email that was personal. I avoided being alone with him whenever possible. I created an invisible wall, invisible to him, but clear to myself. This stops here. No exceptions. But Marcus, in his quiet persistence, tried to find cracks. One Thursday evening, I was at my kitchen table working on a community center budget when the doorbell rang. My heart sank. I didn't answer at first, but the bell rang again. Reluctantly, I opened the door. Marcus stood there holding a bouquet of flowers, red tulips, my favorite. His eyes were earnest, almost desperate. "Rain," he said softly, "please, just hear me out." I wanted to slam the door. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But I kept my voice calm, steady. "Marcus," I said, "this stops here. I will not betray Janelle. I will not encourage this." He swallowed hard, the flowers shaking in his hands. I know you won't, but I can't help how I feel. I'm trying to fight it, but I can't. I just needed to say it one more time." I shook my head. "Marcus, if you ever cared for me at all, you would leave this alone. Leave her alone and leave me alone." He nodded, but there was no conviction in it, only regret and desire. That night, I realized something crucial. Marcus was not going to stop unless I confronted him fully. Not casually, not in passing, not in whispered warnings. He needed a firm, unmistakable boundary. The following week, I arranged to meet him, not alone at my home, not in secret, but at a quiet park during the day. I needed witnesses nearby, but I needed to speak directly, to make it clear where I stood. He arrived, hands in pockets, fidgeting. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under our feet as we walked toward a secluded bench near the fountain. "Rain," he started, voice low. "I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to hurt anyone." I stopped, looking him straight in the eyes. "Then stop. Stop thinking you can have us both. Stop letting your desires dictate my choices. Stop disrespecting your marriage and my friendship. Do you understand?" He nodded, swallowing. I do." "You will stop," I said firmly. "And if you don't, I will make sure Janelle knows the truth. I'm not bluffing. I'm not going to play games with anyone's heart. You made your choice when you married her. Now honor it. Now respect it. And if you can't, I will take every step necessary to protect my friend and myself." He stayed silent, staring at the fountain. I could see the conflict in his face. Regret, longing, guilt.
but I also saw the understanding settle in. Finally, he whispered, I understand. I let him leave with that, but inside I knew the battle was only partially won. Marcus had heard me, yes, but human hearts are unpredictable. Desires do not disappear overnight.
Over the next few weeks, I began a strategy of careful distance. I kept interactions polite but short. I avoided places I knew he would be without Janelle. I returned texts only when necessary, always with a professional, neutral tone. It was during this period that I realized something else, something about myself. I had spent too long suppressing my own boundaries, too long avoiding confrontation for the sake of peace. I had allowed kindness to be mistaken for weakness. And now, with everything on the line, I understood that self-respect was not negotiable. Protecting my friend was not optional, and allowing someone else's indiscretions to dictate my emotional state was a trap I could not fall into again. It was empowering. In a quiet, almost painful way, I felt strong. I felt like myself again, even if my heart ached for the betrayal, even if my trust in people was forever altered. I also knew I needed a contingency plan. If Marcus ever slipped again, if he ever crossed the line, Janelle would need to know. I didn't want to hurt her, but I couldn't allow deceit to fester. I had to be prepared to act, to speak the truth without hesitation. That preparation brought a sense of control I hadn't felt in weeks. And in that control, I discovered a deeper layer of strength. Because here's the truth. Life doesn't hand you easy choices when hearts and friendships are involved. It hands you tests. And the measure of who you are is not in how you feel, but in how you respond. That week, I slept better than I had in months. Not because the situation was resolved, it wasn't, but because I had taken the first real step toward reclaiming my boundaries, my dignity, and my peace. The real confrontation, the one that would ripple through our lives and shake the foundations of my friendship with Janelle, was still ahead. But for the first time, I felt ready. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't swept up in nostalgia or desire. I was aware. And awareness, I realized, is the first line of defense in any battle of the heart. The fallout didn't happen all at once. It crept in like fog, slow and insidious, until one morning I woke up and realized everything had shifted. It started with whispers. Janelle mentioned a friend of hers noticing Marcus's strange behavior at a dinner party. Then another neighbor commented on seeing Marcus lingering a little too long near me at the grocery store. And though none of it was outright proof, it was enough to make my stomach tighten every time I saw Janelle smile at him, oblivious, thinking everything was perfect. I knew I couldn't wait for things to get worse. I couldn't sit silently while betrayal simmered beneath the surface. I had to act. The day I decided to confront Janelle, I remember walking up to her front porch, my hands clenched in my coat pockets, heart pounding like it wanted to escape. She opened the door with that radiant smile I loved so much, completely unaware of the storm I was carrying. "Hey, Rain, come inside. Come in. I made some tea." She pulled me inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and vanilla, warm, comforting, entirely at odds with my rising panic. I sat down, hands folded, taking a deep breath. Janelle, there's something I need to tell you, and I want you to know it comes from love, from loyalty. She tilted her head, brows furrowed. What is it? I looked her in the eyes, the same eyes that had trusted me with every secret for nearly 20 years. I felt the weight of that trust press down on me, but I couldn't falter. It's about Marcus. Her smile faltered. What about him? I exhaled slowly. He's been contacting me, secretly, sending messages, saying things he shouldn't say, things that make me uncomfortable, things that are inappropriate for a married man. The silence that followed was deafening. Her hand went to her mouth, eyes wide. What? Are you serious? I am, I said gently. I tried to ignore it. I tried to maintain boundaries. I didn't want to hurt you, but it's been going on for weeks, and I think you deserve to know the truth. Her hands shook slightly as she sank into the chair opposite me. The color drained from her face, replaced by a pale, stunned disbelief. I don't understand. Marcus, my husband? I nodded. Yes, your husband. He confessed feelings for me multiple times. I refused. I swear I did. I didn't encourage him, but it's real. And you deserve to know before it goes any further. Her tears turned to fury. A mistake? You call weeks of secret texts, secret longing, a mistake? You've betrayed me, Marcus. And Rain, I trusted you too. You were supposed to protect me. I nodded, quietly accepting her anger. I never wanted to hurt you. I stayed loyal. I told him no. I set boundaries. But it's his choice, Janelle, not mine. The tension in the room was thick, almost tangible, like it had weight. Marcus's parents called, friends checked in, neighbors whispered. Everyone who had ever seen him with me began piecing things together. Gossip spread faster than I anticipated.
Marcus faced social consequences almost immediately. His credibility in Janelle's social circle plummeted. Colleagues gave him strange looks, his friends whispered behind his back, and at home, the tension was unbearable. The weight of knowing Janelle had discovered the truth made every word, every glance, every silence charged. For Janelle, the betrayal cut deep. She needed space. She needed time. She needed to decide whether this marriage could survive honesty or whether it would crumble under the weight of secrecy. And for me, I felt the dual burden of relief and heartbreak. Relief that the truth was finally out. Heartbreak that my friendship, the one I had cherished for 20 years, had been stained by someone else's poor choices. But I also felt something else. Clarity. I had acted with integrity. I had set boundaries. I had refused temptation. I had chosen loyalty over desire. And though it cost me peace, it reinforced who I was, who I had to be in this tangled web of human emotions. I realized then that confrontation, no matter how painful, is sometimes the only path to truth, Secrets have a way of twisting reality until they are exposed. And once exposed, life can either shatter or rebuild, depending on the choices we make next. The weeks following the confrontation were quieter than I expected. Not peaceful, exactly, but quieter, in a way that allowed space for reflection. The kind you don't get when emotions are running hot and secrets are festering. Janelle retreated into herself for a while, leaning on family, seeking counseling, and slowly processing the betrayal. I gave her space, checking in only to offer support, listening without judgment. Our friendship, though shaken, survived the initial storm because truth, as painful as it is, has a way of cleansing even the deepest wounds. As for Marcus, he became a shadow of the man I once knew. The charm, the smooth talk, the way he had made you feel seen, all of it crumbled under the weight of his own guilt. I didn't feel satisfaction in his downfall. I only felt a sober awareness of consequences. Actions have weight. Choices leave traces. And his traces would be a reminder for both of us, for years to come, of how fragile trust can be. For myself, healing took its own shape. I stopped walking around with tension in my shoulders, stopped replaying his words in my mind like some cruel mantra. I returned to the routines that grounded me. Long walks through the neighborhood, volunteering at the community center, calling my mother for her calm perspective, writing in my journal each night. I also learned to reinforce my boundaries, clearly, gently, without guilt. If someone tried to cross a line, I said no. If someone tried to blur the line between friendship and temptation, I stepped back. It wasn't always easy, but it was necessary. The experience also gave me a deeper appreciation for the people who truly loved me. Janelle eventually began to trust me again, cautiously at first, but with a renewed bond forged in fire. Friends who had stood by me during the revelation reminded me that loyalty is rare and precious. There were moments of introspection, too. I asked myself, could I have done more? Should I have acted sooner? And I realized that in matters of the heart, the only measure you can truly hold is your own integrity. I had acted with honesty, with courage, and with respect for someone I loved dearly. That in itself was victory. Months later, Janelle and I sat on her porch, drinking sweet tea, leaves turning gold around us. The tension that had once defined our interactions had softened into something warmer, gentler, a friendship that had been tested and somehow survived. You know, she said, her voice small but steady, I think I understand now why I never noticed sooner. I trusted him completely, and I trusted you completely. But maybe that's just how dangerous love can be. It blinds you. I nodded, watching the way her fingers traced the rim of her glass. Love can be blind. And people make mistakes. But loyalty sees clearly, even when hearts get messy. She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. Thank you for not betraying me. I can't imagine what it would have been like if you had. I squeezed her hand. I couldn't. I never could. You're my sister, Janelle. Nothing, no feelings, no temptation could change that. That night, as I drove home under a sky brushed with stars, I thought about everything that happened. The calls, the messages, the confrontations, the heartbreak. I realized something profound. Life doesn't give you instructions for handling betrayal, only moments to act with courage and clarity. And the real lesson isn't about punishment or revenge or even heartbreak. It's about understanding your worth, standing by your morals, and protecting the people you love without losing yourself in the process. I also realized that boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are structures that allow you to live fully without fear of violation. I had built mine, and I would never let anyone reach them again. Over time, the anger softened into a quiet wisdom. I wasn't the same Rain who had answered that phone 3 months ago. I had been tempered by fire, refined by experience, stronger in my convictions, calmer in my emotions, more deliberate in my choices. I started mentoring younger women at the community center, sharing pieces of what I had learned: how to protect yourself emotionally, how to recognize red flags, how to navigate friendships and love with grace. I didn't tell them specifics about Marcus or Janelle. That wasn't my story to broadcast. But the essence of what I'd lived through became guidance for others. And somewhere deep down, I forgave. Not Marcus, not fully, perhaps, and certainly not his actions, but the situation itself. Life had handed me a difficult lesson. Yes, but it also gave me clarity, resilience, and a renewed sense of self. By the time the first anniversary of Janelle's wedding came around, I felt peace. I visited their home with a card and a hug. No awkwardness, no lingering tension. Janelle smiled. Marcus nodded politely. I could see the remnants of old guilt in his eyes, but it no longer had power over me. I had reclaimed my heart. I had reclaimed my voice. And more than anything, I had reclaimed my dignity. Because that's what life teaches you in its sharpest, cruelest moments. That even when people disappoint, even when love goes astray, even when betrayal shakes you to your core, you are not defined by what others do to you. You are defined by how you choose to respond. And I chose to respond with integrity. Sitting here writing this, I still think about that night. The phone call, the trembling in my hands, the ache in my chest. I think about Marcus, about Janelle, about myself. And I think about the choices we make when loyalty, love, and desire collide. Life doesn't give you a manual for moments like these. There's no clear right or wrong outside of your own conscience. All you have is what you feel is right and the courage to stand by it. For me, that meant refusing temptation, confronting truth, and protecting the friendship that meant more than a fleeting crush or momentary affection. I won't pretend it was easy. It hurt. It broke trust. It made me question everything I thought I knew about people. But in the end, I learned that protecting your heart doesn't mean closing it off. It means knowing your worth, trusting your instincts, and standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable,
even when it costs you peace. Janelle and I are still friends. We've rebuilt, slowly and carefully, piece by piece. Marcus, he's learned the hard way that actions have consequences. And me,
I've learned that sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that save you, emotionally, morally, spiritually. So I ask you, dear viewer, as you watch this story unfold, when someone you love makes a choice that betrays your trust, would you confront it? Or would you stay silent to protect your heart, hoping the truth fades with time? Life is messy. Love is messy. But integrity? That's something you can carry with you always. If you've ever faced a moment where loyalty and desire collided, where the heart wrestled with conscience, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Share your story in the comments. Let's talk. Let's learn. Let's grow together. And if this story touched you or reminded you of the power of standing by your principles, please subscribe for more real-life storytime tales. There are lessons in every heartbreak, wisdom in every betrayal, and hope in every recovery.